All right. Welcome, everyone. Great to have all of you joining us today. We're going to hang out for just a minute here to make sure that everyone can join and get settled in. We have some amazing guests, so be sure to grab a drink and a snack so that you don't miss a thing. I'm coming to you from Bozeman, Montana, where it has been absolutely beautiful lately. We usually get a lot of smoke from wildfires in August, and that has not been the case this year. So we're really enjoying that. And I'm also going to knock on wood. Stephen, how are things in San Diego? How have you been?
Hey, good morning. I'm in San Diego, so it's hard to complain about very much here. But yeah, off to a great start for the day so far. Just hanging out with the kids and putting together some info for everybody attending today that I hope will be helpful about the history of our firm and what's worked and not worked for marketing. And happy to answer whatever questions I can and help everybody out here.
Perfect. I think we're going to get into really some good stuff. Yeah. All right, Sam, how about you? What's going on in Idaho?
I think we're getting all the smoke that you're not getting.
Oh no.
it's like a Stephen King movie out there. So, it's good. This is just par for the course for August over here. So, I'm excited for today's discussion.
Yeah, me too. Perfect. All right. Well, we're just past the hour, so I'll officially get us launched. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Amy Arno, and I am the Field and Event Marketing Manager on the XYPN marketing team. Today, I am so glad to host this event, How to Generate the Right Leads for Your RIA, with XYPN member Stephen Fox and Sam McCue, XYPN Director of Sales and Marketing Operations. I do have just a few housekeeping items to address. If you have any questions for us, please be sure to put those in the Q&A feature, which is at the bottom of Zoom. That'll just be easier for me to manage than if you put them in the chat. We will be dropping resources in the chat, so you do want to keep an eye on that too. If we talk about anything, then Audrey is going to post links in there, so keep an eye on that. We have some pre-submitted questions, so we're going to do a mix of both the questions that we received beforehand and the ones that we get asked live. We also will have an opportunity for you to fill out a survey after the webinar is over. You'll get that from Zoom, and we would love for you to fill that out if you have a minute. We want to hear how we did, and then also want you to put some ideas in there for topics that you would like to see in the future. So we usually host these free events every month, but next month we are going to be at our annual conference, XYPN Live. That is September 18th to the 21st in Atlanta, Georgia. And first of all, you should really come because it's amazing. But if you can't, we will be recording a session that will be available on demand afterwards. So that conversation is Your Best Life Starts Here, the transformative flexibility of RIA firm ownership. It will be hosted by Maddie Roach and features XYPN members Jay Bukalu and Laura Lynch. And you can find that on our virtual events page when we get back from XYPN Live. So keep an eye for that too. All right, enough with the boring stuff. Let's get to the reason that you are all here. I would like to start by having our panelists introduce themselves. So Stephen, would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little about your firm?
Yeah, I'll give you a brief intro now, and then we'll go through a little bit more of the history of marketing and stuff in a few minutes. But brief summary. So I'm a founder of a firm called NextGen Financial Planning in San Diego. Started in 2016. I've been an XYPN member for that whole time. Fee only RIA, work with younger clients, doing both financial planning and investment management. Right now, we're a team of 4 of us working with around 140 something clients on an ongoing basis, and hourly projects and some investment management clients on top of that. I'm happy to go into all the marketing stuff in more detail in a little bit, but that's a brief summary of who we are and how old we are and stuff.
Great, thank you. All right, Sam, you want to tell us about your experience in marketing and what you currently do at XYPN?
Yeah, hey everybody, Sam McCue here, Director of Sales and Marketing Operations for XYPN. For the last 10 years, I've been doing inbound marketing, SEO, a little bit of sales in there. And I think what drew me to XYPN was, coming from an agency capacity, just the emphasis on autonomy and how firm owners can really take control of their lives. So I really have a passion for helping people build businesses, and XYPN is the perfect blend of inbound marketing and empowerment that drew me here. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, Stephen, you want to hit us with some numbers?
Sure. So start with some quick context and give you guys a little bit of a history of marketing and prospect numbers and sources for our firm over time. And I think the main reason to go through this is just to give all of you a little bit more context and maybe help tailor the questions that you get. I know we are going to spend most of our time answering questions from you all, not just presentation from Sam and I, but to help tailor those questions. So our firm started in 2016, and I came into this with a little bit of a different background and direction than probably most of you or most XYPN members. So I was in the Marines first until 2013, went to school at San Diego State and got in their financial planning program. And when I started my firm, it was just right around the same time I graduated. I actually started the registration process about 6 months before graduating, and joined XYPN because it seemed like a way to make it a heck of a lot easier and get all the resources and connect with other people and such. So I came into this with 0 clients and basically 0 experience, which is hopefully not where most of you are coming from if you're considering starting your own firm and joining XYPN. But that did definitely change how this worked out for me compared to what it would be for most people. So registration was approved June 23rd of 2016. So for the second half of 2016, I had a total of 3 prospects come in. And all 3 of those were not the result of any brilliant intentional marketing effort. They were all just personal connections, like people that I knew, or one of them actually was the website designer that I hired to make the first version of my website. He just enjoyed hearing me talk about what I was doing and decided that he and his wife wanted to sign up for an hourly project. So very little marketing success for the first 6 months, which is a little bit demoralizing. But looking back, having 0 experience and 0 starting clients is probably shouldn't be surprising to me or anybody else. Over 2017, the first full year, things got a lot better. We were up to 39 prospect meetings that I had over the course of the year. And those came from a few different places. So the single most impactful thing early on in 2017 was referrals from other firms. So I did spend a lot of time in 2016, 17 building relationships with other financial planners through FPA, NAPFA, just manually reaching out to people. I was really actively involved in our FPA chapter for years. I was the president in 2018 or 19. So that ended up being our first somewhat reliable, consistent source of new leads. And that was tremendously helped by the fact that I was working with very different type of client than most firms. So most firms are working with, you all know as well as I do, working with retirees or really high net worth clients. I don't work with either one of those groups. So if I go to a firm and tell them that I'm working with young professionals, I don't have a minimum account size, I'm trying to do really good in-depth financial planning work for people, operating fee only, then that's going to stand out in a lot of their minds. And when they come across somebody that is not a good fit for their model, as long as I've done a reasonably good job of building some credibility, they're going to start sending me referrals. And that's only increased over time since then. But that was the first big source that we had over the first full year. Besides that, other sources that started working in 2017 were I started experimenting with Yelp ads in March of 2017, paid Yelp ads. We're still doing that, but that started working in 2017. We're still doing it over 6 years later. And then also I made a website called San Diego Financial Advisors Network, which is basically just a site that I made separate from my firm site, where I invited other local firm members with somewhat similar approaches to mine, but different target market, to create profiles on there. We all link to it together, and we have some articles that we posted on there, and that site actually ends up ranking really well pretty quickly for terms like San Diego Financial Advisor or Fee Only Financial Planner San Diego, all variants of those terms. The site still now ranks really well, like within the first 2, 3, 4, 5 for all those relevant search terms. So that was in February of 2017. And then also by December of 2017, I had finished the CFP experience requirement. And so I could be listed on various sites like CFP, FPA, NAPFA, Fee Only Network, all those types of things. Up until December of 2017, I didn't have that option. 2018, I went from 39 prospect meetings the year before to 134 in 2018. So that was a big jump. And it was mostly just from doubling down on the existing things that I've been doing. So referrals from other firms. I did start going to weekly meetings for a local business meetup group. Online search was starting to grow. That made up about 25% of those meetings. Yelp ads I continued. And I also did some random little experiments with like LinkedIn software spam, like this automated tool that would reach out to people that met ABC characteristics and send them a bunch of messages. That actually worked really well for getting new meetings, but none of those people were actually very interested in financial planning and weren't really the people I was looking to talk to anyway. So that was kind of a failed experiment. And then experiment with Google ads a little bit too. But yeah, 2018 was a big jump of going from 39 to 134 prospects. 2019 jumped up to 190. And I'll go through 2019 to 2023 sources in a second, because it's really been the same every year since then. But numbers real quick. First, 2019 had 190 prospect meetings. 2020 had 197. 2021, we were up to 226. 2022, we dropped to 181 because I closed off the calendar for a few months. Basically, we had one of the financial planners on my team that I'd hired leave us, and we needed to do everything we could to maintain client service and retain some of those clients that were leaving and deal with some legal complications and stuff. So basically, we closed off calendar for a little while. And so far in 2023, year to date, we're at 139 prospect meetings, and that puts us on track for 229 over the course of the year. And so I think for a firm of our size and age and type, we get a lot of prospect meetings compared to most. This is one thing I feel like we're doing pretty well now. And the bigger challenge actually has become everything else in running the firm, like operational stuff in the background, like how do we actually do financial planning for people and stay organized, staffing issues, just everything else that goes into running a firm. And marketing sort of feels like the easy part right now. And that may change in the future, but so far that's how it goes. So for 2019 to 23, the sources have been online search is just growing and growing more and more for us. Referrals from other firms have continued to expand, although the percentage is going down as other things grow. We're starting to get referrals from existing clients in meaningful amounts, just as we've been working with more people for longer periods of time and doing great work for them. Yelp ads are still running and doing well for us. One thing I had never really considered before until I started seeing it happen is that we would start getting old failed prospects or former clients we'd worked with before coming back to us. So that's starting to become a meaningful percentage over sometimes. And then those listing sites of CFP and FPA and NAPFA and such still bring in a few. So I did pull up the sources of new prospects over the last 12 months. So from August 2022 to July 2023, I can run through these real quick for you. So we had 213 prospects scheduled over the last 12 full months. And out of those 213, so all these responses are from a questionnaire that I have people complete when they sign up for an intro meeting with us. The last field on their last question is just an open-ended field where it says something like, how did you hear about us? And so these are free form responses. 62 gave something along the lines of Google or online search is what they said. So 62, that's a little over a third, a little under a third. 38 came from Yelp. Yelp does offer stats on what percentage of the people that find us are from the fact that we are paid listing versus just normal organic search. I don't know if I really trust their data, but combined 38 people told us they found us on Yelp. 27 gave a pretty vague response saying something along the lines of online or internet. And that could be a lot broader than Google searches. That's why I kind of separated that out. 24 listed a specific financial planner or firm name or said something like referred by another firm. So that's still a meaningful percentage for us, a little over 10%. 18 were referrals from existing clients or people that probably are work clients or prospects. So they would say something like friend or colleague, or they would name a specific person. And then the rest of these categories are all really small. So just various sources. 6 were former clients or failed prospects coming back. 3 from NAPFA, 3 from XYPN, 3 referrals from other types of financial services professionals, like 2 tax preparers and a student loan attorney. 3 were from podcasts and YouTube videos that I was a guest on. I don't have my own podcast or YouTube channel, but just guesting on some others once in a while brings in prospects. 3 mentioned a book that I was a contributor to that was released a few months ago called More Than Money. I was one of the contributors to that. 2 came from LinkedIn, 2 from the CFP website, 2 from that San Diego network website I mentioned before, 1 from FPA, 1 from the CSLP website. One of the financial planners on my team that I hired is a CSLP, so someone found us through there. And then 15 just left it blank. So hopefully that gives you guys some useful context on our firm and what we've been doing over time, and might shape the questions that you all send over.
Yeah. I hate this phrase, but there's a lot to unpack there. So I think everyone listening wants these results. So I do want to spend some time cleaning up just a few quick questions that we have, and then trying to figure out how we can help others emulate this. So, so Brianna asked, what was the name of it again? I think she's asking about the network you created, and it's the San Diego Advisor Network. Is that right?
Yes. So it's at San Diego Financial Advisor Network.com. I'm not the first person who came up with this idea. As far as I'm aware, the first site of this type was in Portland. I think it was made by Will Kaplan. I got the idea from a mutual friend of ours, Scott Frank. I just saw what they were doing there in Portland, and I thought I could do the same thing in San Diego and expand on the idea a little bit. So I built that, and it's worked really well. And I don't think there's been any single year where it brought in a meaningful number of prospects directly. I don't think it it really serves as the initial entry point of how people find us, but it definitely helps sort of validate us when people hear about us through any other channel and they're looking around online and trying to find out more about us. And it's just one additional place that seems credible in their eyes that they can learn a little bit more about us and give them a little more confidence in scheduling with us. So it's been helpful there.
Yep. And then we had a question of, does the RIA need to be located in San Diego to be part of that advisor network?
Yes.
Is it more regional? Yes. Do you have to
Yeah,
be in
San
San Diego?
Diego.
Okay.
Yep.
And then let's see. So you said you had 38 referrals or 38 prospects from referrals out of what, 122? We have a question about the percentage of new business from referrals. So somewhere around 15%, it sounds like.
So over the last 12 months that I separated out here in categories, the 38 was from Yelp. So
Okay.
38
gotcha.
out of 213 there is 17.8%. And then we had referrals were 24 from other financial planners, 18 from existing clients and prospects, and then 3 from other types of financial services professionals.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Lots of people want to know what your closing rate is on your prospects.
Oh, that's been all over the place. So it depends what time frame you look at and which member of our team you look at. So like I mentioned, I started the firm by myself. December 2017 was the first person who joined our firm besides me. So a year and a half in, he was in a financial planning role. Basically, it was my role to help bring in new prospects, and we were each working with those prospects individually. So if a prospect met with him initially, regardless of how they initially found us, he'd be the one that worked with them. And if I met with them initially, if they just happened to schedule with me, then I'd be the one to work with them. And then we had the next financial planner join us in April or May of 2020. And then last year in the summer, we had someone that was in a paraplanner type role move up to a financial planning role where he started meeting with prospects independently and working with people without as much direct assistance from me. So close rate vary dramatically depending on which time frame and which person you're looking at. It's also complicated a little bit by like if somebody signs up for an hourly project, do we count that as closing or not? Like they're a client, not really the type of client that we aim to maximize, but it is still, we're getting us the opportunity to help somebody and to earn a little bit of revenue for it. So I don't want to not answer the question. It's just really hard to give a specific answer. So the last year that I was taking prospect meetings myself was 2020, I think. And I know that year I had a 42% close rate for prospects that I met with that became ongoing financial planning clients. Over the last 12 months, almost all of our prospect meetings have been run by the one who most recently started taking them on, has a lot less experience. His close rate is like 10%, probably less than that. So we're working on him. He's learning, getting some more experience. And I help sit in and give him some feedback where I can, but that's hurt us a little bit lately.
Yep. No, that sounds great. Okay, I want to take us back to the beginning so we can start to build a foundation for this. So when you are launching a firm, you're thinking about launching a firm, what are the first things that you did then to start building this? You know, you build a website. Did you start building content with a blog? Did you define a niche? Like, how did you decide on your niche? Like, what are some of the first steps that you took to start creating this marketing pipeline?
So I knew from the beginning that I wanted to work with clients that I felt like I had more in common with and that most firms don't. And that was actually a big motivator for me wanting to start the firm in the first place, is I didn't want to work with retirees and high net worth clients that were already being served well by a million other firms out there. So I knew that I wanted to work with kind of broadly classified as young professionals. I've never gotten super specific about a certain profession or a narrow band of like they have to be 30 to 34 and a half years old. I've never said that they have to have income between this and this range. I've never gotten super specific about that. I've always tried to think about it primarily in terms of what are their pain points? Like, what am I actually helping these people with? And is that something that I can do well for them? And that's going to lead to them looking for help from someone like me in the first place. And so it generally tends to be around, messaging tends to be around things like student loan planning issues or equity compensation, or people who are just getting started with investing and don't know where to begin, or around life events, like someone getting married and combining finances with a spouse for the first time and they have no idea how to do a budget together, or having kids and like different events, life events like that, right? Buying a house. So it tends to be around pain points and life events rather than demographics or psychographics. I think that some XYPN firms, or broader than XYPN, some financial planning firms in general get far more specific than I do on who they work with, far more narrowly defined. And I think that's, for most people, that's probably a good idea. But even with as broad as I am, it's still far more narrow and defined and targeted than most firms are in general. And it's been enough for us to where people feel like they're in the right place when they schedule with us, and where I get referrals from other firms because we're different enough from them. And to where we can operate like reasonably efficiently. I don't feel like I'm, at least after the first few years, I don't feel like I'm constantly having to learn new things to be able to actually do good, effective work for people. And I think that's probably about the degree of specificity that works well for us. But if you want to be that person that works with dentists who are 42.4 years old and they're selling their practice right now, and they have $1.3 million, like whatever extremely narrow specific thing, if that's working for you and you want to work with those people, then I think that's great too. I would just expect it to be a little bit more painful in the very beginning and probably work a lot better over the midterm of like 3, 4, 5 years is what I would guess.
So
Yeah,
oh, sorry, go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, and as you're ramping up, what I'm kind of seeing a common theme here, Stephen, where you gain momentum over time. But like you said, for the first 6 months, it was 3 clients. So that niching phase can really help in the short term too. I mean, when you're competing at a smaller level, you're not trying to rank against all of these other advisory firms that have an established website and domain and authority. So that's from a technical aspect. There's pros and cons in the beginning stages too, to niching down. But not to take away from anything you've done. I'm just giving the duality of it there.
And what do you think, Sam, about should people be spending their time on trying to increase SEO? Like, should they be writing blog posts, or like what activities can they do before like their website is live?
Yeah, I think a website is key first. I mean, you got to have it should be your physical storefront. So if you're working from home, or if you don't have an office, think of it as brick and mortar, your website. And you should have a place for people to contact you, and you should probably think about getting some content out there that's very specific to, if you are going to niche down, the keywords that those folks would search for. So like Stephen, when you were going through the list of your clients and how their demographics, you hit a ton of my pain points, that, recently married and all of these things. So that resonated with me. And those are the kind of things that other folks like me would search for. If I was looking for help getting into investing, or, having a child, or paying off student loans. There's a lot of, on the technical side of like SEOing a website, there's a lot of data behind terms like that. So I would recommend a website for sure. And then like setting up a blog and just a place to talk about these things, and for people to find your thoughts on it, because they're going to really trust your authority when you're advising them. So a blog is a place for you to not only like increase that SEO for your website, but also to show them your authority right off the bat.
Yeah, I agree with everything Sam said about the importance of a website and how to make it work for you. I would also add that for the first 6.5 years of our firm, our website was one page. A long page with a lot of good info, like fairly detailed language about who we work with and why, and how we work with people, and stuff about me. But it was one page, Squarespace, pretty simple site. And it ended up ranking fairly well, not because I got tons of backlinks or did tons of advanced technical SEO stuff, but basically because most of the competition was pretty weak at that time. It still is really in San Diego, and I would guess in most cities, most local firms don't put very much effort into getting their site to rank well. Even doing something as simple as like setting up like headers for the different sections on the website, and being thoughtful about keyword density, or having any relevant keywords at all on there, or setting up a Google My Business profile, like just pretty basic stuff. Most firms aren't doing that. And I think it has gotten tougher over the last few years, but it still seems that we have it easy compared to a lot of other business types out there that are much tougher. Like law firms are extremely tough to rank, and they have huge costs for cost per click ads. But just with a one-page website that I didn't update until just over the last couple of months, we finally got a bigger version that I'm starting to expand dramatically. That's enough. It can be enough anyway.
Yeah, starting small can be extremely beneficial. And for anybody that's like wondering about these terms that we're throwing out there, like keyword density and like SEO and backlinks, we have some resources on the XYPN blog that walk you through keyword research and like how that ties into a website, even a small one-page website that can make it really effective, can really maximize your investment on that. So
And even if that
Steven-
one page didn't bring in a lot of people, but the traffic going to it was never more than like 100 or 200 people a month. But what was super helpful about it is when people scheduled meetings with me, or when I was just talking to them, I would hear often things like that they felt like it was talking directly to them, that they'd never heard people talk about financial planning or working with younger clients and the importance of it like I was, and they felt like I was really talking to them directly and personally. So I think that matters a lot too. It's not just about how many people come to your sites, or even whether those people are the types of people that you're looking to work with, but how do you make them feel when they get there? What impression are you leaving with them? Be human.
Okay, you're talking about some things that sound like they come naturally to you, but I want to help people understand how they can also do this. So did you pay someone to help you learn these skills? Did you go to school for it? Like, how did you develop some of these skills? And then how did you also learn how to talk to the people that you want to attract? We got a lot of questions of like, how do I get the people that I want to work with to find me? So how did you learn that language? Did you just speak from the heart? I guess, did you interview people? Like, tell us a little bit more about how you came to this point.
So I did hire somebody to make that initial one-page site for me, but I wrote all of the language on there. He just like did some nice design stuff to make it look a little bit better, and actually built the thing on Squarespace. I did have some experience before starting this firm with other online marketing websites that I'd made on my own. So I was an active duty Marine for about 8 years. And while I was doing that for college, I had all kinds of other random little businesses that I started. And some of them were online, some were not online, but a couple of examples of online ones where I had one that was it was a motorcycle insurance quote website where it just had tons of articles on there about like what are the motorcycle helmet laws in Oregon, and like what is the deductible for motorcycle insurance and stuff like that. And then people would enter their info to get a motorcycle quote, and I would get affiliate payment from this insurance quote aggregator service, right? So I had that, or I had another one where I was using a series of software tools to help website owners build backlinks using software, garbage backlinks from thousands of different sites, but it was actually working, at least at that time. It did have great results for people. So I did have some experience with online marketing stuff going into this. Didn't really use a whole lot of that, but it definitely gave me a head start compared to probably where most financial planners are and the experience that they have. And as far as messaging, I just thought about it similarly to kind of why I decided to start the firm in the first place and how I came up with my service model. I was just thinking to myself, what would I want from my financial planner? Like, if I feel overwhelmed by this stuff, I've got this and this specific issue. What would I want to hear from them? What would I want them to do for me? What kind of approach would I want them to take? And I just kind of imagined that I was talking to myself, or I would imagine like just sitting in a room talking to somebody that I would be thinking to myself, this person seems really cool. I really want to help them. What would I tell them if I'm sitting face to face with them? And that's kind of the approach that I took.
Like knowing your audience, it seems like you know your audience really well, Stephen, because for somebody who's not a financial planner myself, but I work in the space, finance is still a very intimidating topic for me. So if I was going to a financial planner, I'd want it to be very non-intimidating, and that's what I'm getting from what you're talking about, your web copy and just how you're approaching your target audience, is that you're just being approachable.
Yep. Be human. Remember, we're talking to people.
Yeah.
And my current site probably doesn't reflect that very well. Like I said, it's a new site we just made yet, and a lot of it is garbage AI filler text that this marketing company put in there. So I'm cleaning it up, but we are significantly expanding beyond that one page, just because that's what's been working well for us, is online search. And so I want to double down on that now.
Okay, so we've got our website. We know who we want to work with. We're framing our language to attract those people once they do find our website. We're going to do some fancy stuff with keyword density and SEO that we did drop a blog about. So we've got all that framework in place. So what's the next step then? So are we doing marketing personas? Like we're going to generate this top of the funnel, the leads. Like once we've got some leads, how do we bring them through the funnel? Can you talk to me kind of the next step, Stephen?
Yeah, that's one thing that I haven't been very good at over time, is developing like an intentional funnel beyond just somebody finds our website or hears about me or our firm through whatever channel. And then they have to take this big, scary step, what seems to them to be a big, scary step of scheduling an intro meeting with me, where they think I'm going to like pitch them and then harass them forever. And they don't want to do that. That's a big, scary thing for a lot of people. So that's one thing that I've failed at, and we're starting to get better at now, is having like a more structured approach where we have a little bit more engagement in the middle of the funnel between initial exposure to us and then actually taking that scary step of scheduling a meeting and then signing on. We've never really done much to engage people in the middle. And I do have an email list that has about 1,000 or so addresses on there now that I've been collecting over time and have done basically nothing with until recently. So we're just starting to experiment with that now as one way to keep people engaged and give them more info and help build up trust over time in case they find us and they're not ready to take that step of scheduling a meeting yet. It makes me shudder a little bit to think about how much business I've probably lost by not starting that much earlier than now.
Sure. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think one thing you said that really resonates with me is that people, as soon as they submit a form on a website, they know they're just going to get hammered with calls or emails or all these things, and people's bandwidth shrinks every day. But if you can craft every email you send, even if it's an automated email that goes out, in terms of what value are you giving, there's a lot of value you can just put into an email, whether it's just weekly tips or a snapshot at the market or just whatever that is. People will be less intimidated by wanting to have that call with you if you're giving them value on a regular basis. And if you can do it on average, I think the average touch point for at least our industry is like 13 touch points before an inbound contact wants to take an intro call and come to the bottom of that funnel. So just a lot of intentional one-to-many communication in the middle of that funnel can go a long ways to increasing your conversion rates.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. So we did have a question about what's been most successful in your email marketing, which you're going to find out and then tell us about later, Stephen. Have you done any video updates, email newsletters, white papers on niche topics? Have you done any of that? Yeah, experimented with that at all, Stephen?
No, never been active on my own YouTube channel, never had a podcast, although I've guested on a couple dozen maybe and have gotten some prospects from that. Have written email newsletters very, very sporadically. And what was the other thing that you mentioned?
Oh, like white papers?
Nope.
Nope. None of that. Okay, great.
I think any of those can work.
Yeah.
I haven't decided not to do any of those because I think that they're bad avenues to take. It's just that there are only so many things I can do. And I'm trying to develop an approach, not just in marketing, but everything in my business or maybe broadly in my life, trying to take the approach of being really good at a smaller number of things instead of feeling stressed and making little progress in many things.
Mm-hmm. No, that sounds good. Sam, what do you think about that of like establishing yourself through those avenues?
I think you've got a lot of good problems to have, Stephen. And my advice for someone just starting out would be to just find out what's working, just even at a small scale, and try and scale that outward. So if you have a niche, I use this example a lot because my wife's a nurse. And so if I was a financial advisor that wanted to specialize with nurses, planning for nurses, I would figure out what they search for. And maybe create an FAQ with those exact terms on my website. So for example, like how to pay off student loans. There's a lot of search volume related to nursing student loans. And you could create an FAQ about that or a blog or something so that when somebody's actively searching for that information, you hit them right at that moment, right when they're curious about it. So non-interruptive tactics like that can go a long ways. And I think like in terms of level of effort, you can do advertising and all of that, but your cost per acquisition is going to be a lot more scalable with these like content related activities that Google can find and then spit out in front of somebody's face when they're looking for it. So
yeah,
that's a high level advice for how I'd get started, is maybe just like an FAQ page would be really, really valuable.
Yeah, one thing along those lines that I'm working on right now is a series of pages on our website related to employer benefits for a few of the major employers here in San Diego that we have clients at. So UCSD and Qualcomm, like there are a few examples of the biggest employers here in San Diego, and we're already familiar with their 401k plan and pensions and such because we have some clients there. And so if we can answer a bunch of questions related to that stuff before people even start working with us, I think that'd be really helpful. I don't know how many people are searching for that kind of thing, but for somebody that it's relevant for, that small number of people that it does matter and they come across it, I think it would hit them pretty hard.
Yeah, and there are tools out there that typically they're priced for like marketing agencies to be able to afford them, that can give you that search data. But one free tool that I would advise anybody who's just curious about what people are searching for is is you can sign up for a free Google Ads account, and then you can go into their keyword planner tool and you can start typing in terms, things that you would search for, and it'll tell you how many people average search for that per month. You can even filter by location a little bit, but that's a free tool you can kind of start with as you're planning your content and just, these things that you want people to find you for.
Mm-hmm. So I just want to make sure we're clear about the marketing persona, like having a persona thing. It sounds to me, I mean, we do that at XYPN, but we're also almost 10 years old. And Stephen has not done that yet. And his firm is over 6 years old. So, and I froze, sorry. So it sounds like it's something that can wait, but what is more important is understanding like the main client that you want to work with and being able to speak that language. So you don't need to have a bunch of personas as you get started. That can be something that can come later as you get more sophisticated in your marketing pipeline. Do you guys agree with that assessment?
Yes, I think it can really work. If you have a little bit of traction. So Stephen, you mentioned you started with 3 clients that were referrals, but they're still clients. They still wanted to work with you. So you just kind of could go through the why of why they wanted to work with you. Well, your web designer, he just liked the way you talked about it. So he was a young professional, or arguably young professional. That was an assumption I made.
Yeah, that's a fair description.
Yeah, and that's kind of how you develop that persona. That could have been how you develop that persona, is just you resonate with young professionals. So find more like them. Take what you do good at and turn it into a 5-lane highway is kind of the approach. So your personas can kind of be a retroactive thing in many cases. And I think, if you're just yourself and you're starting a small business, you need to be very judicious with your time. So starting off by creating all these personas that you want to go after might not be the best use of your time in that starting phase, but it could definitely be something to help you scale as you move into that other phases.
Yeah, maybe I should clarify. Around the time I started the firm, actually beforehand, when I was thinking about whether I wanted to do it, I actually did write down like a bunch of characteristics of the type of person that I wanted to work with, what I thought their main problems would be, what kind of language they would use, where I would find them, things like that. So I agree with you 100% that that's important. Even if not every client, especially in the early days, is going to meet that, I think it's still helpful to think through.
We had a episode of XYPN Radio that I want to drop here with Marlon Wesh. He's a member, and he has a really, really cool example of how he found nurses for his financial planning practice by going through Facebook and finding the discussions in Facebook where they're asking all these weird questions. And so, I mean, in the internet age, there's just so many tools at our disposal, but he started small. And like you, Stephen, he found just the right questions to ask. So another cool example. I think we can drop that in the chat too.
Yeah. Okay, I like that transition. Let's talk about social media. So is social media a viable source of leads? Stephen, have you had any success there? I know Yelp is like sort of social media adjacent because people are leaving reviews and that kind of stuff, but have you done anything in Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, anything there?
I think any of those can work extremely well if you are taking an intentional approach and what you're doing and why. You're not just randomly posting sporadically on different topics, but like you take a more methodical, strategic approach to it. I think it absolutely can work well. I just haven't done it because, again, there are only so many things I can do, right? New firm just by myself in the beginning. So I don't have much direct experience there. All I've done on that front is I mentioned before, I was experimenting for just a few weeks with it's like software tool, some consultant on LinkedIn that just spammed a bunch of people with messages. That got me a lot of meetings. I think over the first 2 weeks, it got me like 20 plus meetings probably from doing that. Many of whom should have been within my target market when you look at the types of data you can find about somebody on LinkedIn, like occupation or age or education level and income level and zip code and stuff like that. By those metrics, any of those people should have been good clients. But one lesson I learned from that experiment is I think it's very, very difficult to convince people that they need the help of a financial planner. And it's much more effective to focus my efforts on people who already know that they do want or need a financial planner for some specific pain point. And then I'm the one that makes sense to them when they're already looking. It's hard to convince somebody of the need for this type of service. So focus on people that know of the need and stand out amongst the options they're considering, I think is much more effective. And that's probably
Yeah.
true on any social media channel as well.
There's a behavioral psychology term for that, and it's called temporal discounting. And this might be too nerdy, but it's really interesting. People don't see their future selves, and they see their future selves as a stranger, essentially. So they have, like, a lot of folks have a hard time planning for, like, I have a hard time thinking about what future Sam, 10 years from now, Sam is going to look like. And I see him as a stranger, and that directly can relate to me wanting to make decisions today that just, I won't see the rewards for 10 years. So temporal discounting is it's a term, but overcoming that is a lot harder than, like you said, finding the folks that already know this is a need. So.
Great. No, that's super helpful. Thank you. Okay, so we've got some questions I want to hit here real quick. So for paid ads through Yelp and Google, which one did you have a better return on investment for prospects who signed up to become clients? Steven, where are you
So
at
my
with that?
return on Google ads was 0.
Okay.
I only did a short-term experiment, just basically to learn about the system of how you can bid on different keywords. You set like your ceiling for your budget, and you can see the number of people that are clicking on it. You can look at conversion rates and stuff. So I was basically just trying to learn about it. I put in, I don't know, maybe like $300 or $400, I think, in paid ads over a couple of weeks, and 0 clients from that. But again, I think that one absolutely can work if you put a lot of focus on it and really learn about it. That's a really easy way to lose tons of money if you're not taking a strategic, intentional approach. But if you are, or if you hire an expert who really knows what you're looking for and they do it for you, I think that can work extremely well. And it's nice that it's scalable too. Like if I know that we have excess capacity right now, or the opposite, I can change my budget anytime and it's immediately effective. So I think that's the main advantage there. Again, you'd have to watch out for the issue of people actually looking to hire a financial planner right now. Like, you don't want to convince them. You want to target the people who are already looking to hire one. So be thoughtful about the words you're targeting. And as far as the return for Yelp ads, so we started, I mentioned March of 2017. Our initial budget then was, I think, $750 a month. For a while, it got up to $1,200 a month. And in the last few years, it's been $1,030 a month is what I'm paying. And I don't think there's been a single month, maybe there's been a month or two, but it's very rare that we don't have at least one prospect scheduling from Yelp. The average is probably like 3 or 4. So that kind of goes into, you mentioned earlier about calculating client acquisition costs. I'm not really sure how to measure that in the aggregate. For Yelp, it's super easy because I know what I'm paying each month. It's just a flat rate. And I know how many people at least say they're coming from Yelp. And I know some number of those people ended up becoming clients. So it's super easy to find a client acquisition cost. That's a lot harder when you look at things in the aggregate. So for example, XYPN membership, part of the reason I pay for that is for marketing support, right? We get a listing on there and they offer all these marketing resources. Should I include a portion of that in my marketing budget, my client acquisition costs? I don't know. Same for CFP or FPA membership. Like there are some software tools that some features related to them are connected to marketing somehow, but there are other reasons I use it anyway. So I'm not really sure how to count client acquisition costs. I think it's kind of tough, but to the extent that you can measure it, I think that's very, very helpful to do. And the return for us on Yelp has been very positive. Our average client acquisition cost through that channel specifically is around $200 to $300.
And have you talked to anyone else that has had this experience with Yelp?
I'm only aware of one other firm that's had decent amount of success with it. I don't know why. I think it will vary dramatically depending on the type of client that you're working with and the geographic area that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it will work for everybody.
It doesn't surprise me though that it's got better ROI for you. It's just a less crowded space. I mean, a lot of folks go to Google immediately and they get hit with so many ads. I think the average number of ads on a search results page now is like 6, and you can't even tell which ones they are. So I don't even advise starting there anymore, but with like maybe a retargeting strategy on Google where they hit your site and then, they go wherever else they want to go on the internet and boom, there's your banner ad. So you stay top of mind, like they're already interested. So let's focus on the folks that actually like already hit your site instead of getting folks in there that, like you said, they might just be looking for financial planning or for financial, just not even what you're really what you are offering. So.
Yeah, I should add that with Yelp, the reason I started using them in the first place is because it was true then, 6 years ago, still true now, that when you do a search for terms like San Diego financial planner, all the variants, the top results, or at least within the top 3, is going to be Yelp. And when you click on that Yelp results on Google, it brings you to the Yelp search results page for a related term. So if you were to go to yelp.com and search financial advisor and the page it brings you to, that's what the Google search results page brings you to. And the top of that Yelp results page is the paid listings on Yelp. And so I thought, okay, if this is where people are directed to when they search for a term like that, why not advertise there? And then similar approach with, so the other way I was thinking about this is I mentioned earlier the importance of reaching out to other local firms and building referral relationships with them when they work with different clients. Part of the reason I knew which firms and people to reach out to is, again, just looking at who's ranking in Google right now, the first couple of pages. So if you look at the first couple of pages of Google search results for relevant terms for us, almost every listing there is a site that we're listed on, or a site I own, or a firm that sends me referrals. So it's pretty easy to find us on the internet.
Yeah.
One way or another.
I'm interested in talking a little bit about that, like the in-person marketing, because we do have some questions on that. Okay, so you have local firms that you've approached. Do you cold call them? Do you email them? Like, what does that look like to actually make that connection? And then do you recommend, have you done any like local business leads groups? Has any of that been helpful? Talk to me about what it looks like to do it with people you actually meet in person.
Yeah. So initially, the way I started doing this was through our FPA chapter. I was actually volunteer for our local chapter's board while I was still in school for the last couple of years, and then just stuck with it. And just by doing the work of helping run a local chapter, you just get to meet a lot of people, and they ask about, oh, what is your practice like? Well, I'm still a student now. I don't have one yet. Or once I did, I would say I work with this and this type of people, and you just build relationships with them. And I think that was a little scary, hard for me at first. I don't see myself as somebody who is particularly extroverted, social. I don't think I'm very good at talking to people. I'm probably a lot better now than I was around the time I started a firm, but it's still not a strength of mine. I think most financial planners are excellent in this area at connecting with people and building relationships. I've never been that great at it, but I was still able to make it work. And I think to the extent I had results there, it's mostly just because I just talked to people and it was genuine. I didn't try to mislead them. I didn't try to make myself sound like I'm bigger or more important or smarter than I am. I just asked lots of questions. I just tried to really listen to people and build good relationships and find ways to help them instead of just being selfish and ask for things. I think that's helped a lot. And so besides FPA chapter and our local NAPFA group, I did also just randomly call or email people, and I got a surprisingly high success rate from that. I hope that it's true of the financial planning profession more broadly and not just here in San Diego, but I found that almost everybody I talked to was really willing to help, especially those folks who were really far along in their career and weren't taking on clients anyway and wanted to help out somebody that they saw as being genuine and really wants to do the right thing for clients. I think that that resonated with a lot of folks that I talked to. So, and then for local business groups, I was part of one group called Greater San Diego Business Association. It's changed a lot. It doesn't exist in the same form anymore, but there was about maybe a year and a half or so where I was going to a weekly meeting with a few business owners, completely different types of businesses from mine. And we would help each other solve whatever random business issues we were having and build relationships. And over the course of that, it was a year and a half to 2 years. I think I only got maybe like 3 referrals. It wasn't very many, but it was worth doing anyway, because I still learned a lot from those people about small business in general.
Yeah, no, that's great. And really it can be whoever the potential client is asking as a trusted advisor. So it could be their accountant, where they come to the accountant and they say, do you know someone, there's this broad group that a potential client will come to ask for. So you can get in front of all those people and potentially have success.
Yeah. I think if you want to stay solo or a small firm or in the early days, that's the way to go, is building relationships with any number of groups of people that can have a direct impact and send you clients directly, as opposed to doing things that have a much longer tail, but are more appropriate for larger businesses like blogging and such, or online ads. I think it probably makes sense to focus on the things that get more direct hits and that you can have more direct influence over in the short term, rather than blogging might or not work for you. It works when you're big, and it may work when you're small, but takes a long time. Whereas building relationships with referral sources, that works immediately when you're small, and when you're bigger, it's not really very scalable or predictable anymore. So I think it's important to match your approach with whatever stage of maturity you're at with your firm, or whatever your individual strengths and weaknesses are.
Mm-hmm. And do you reciprocate those referrals? We had a question about this. So like if someone comes to you that's not a right fit, how do you decide who to send them? Who do you send them to? Or now that you've expanded, do you not have to do that as much?
Oh yeah, we don't work with retirees or with really high net worth clients. We absolutely send them out to other firms. And I try and do a good job of asking them some questions to see if there's something specific they mentioned that would bring a particular firm to mind that I'll send them to. Otherwise, I just give them a list of a few that I think might be a good option. But yeah, we reciprocate that. I think it's best for everybody. I mean, if I'm going to these other firms saying, hey, when you get somebody that meets ABC characteristics and they're not the right fit for you, please send them over to me. If I don't do the same for them, well, then that kind of undercuts my messaging. And I want to make sure I'm doing what's best for everybody, me and the other firm and the end client.
Yeah. So I'm curious about, you talked a couple of times about experimenting with stuff. So as you're trying to decide what works for you, how long do you spend on something before you decide, no, this isn't it, before you move on and try something else?
I don't know. I haven't really had a consistent policy on that. I would say whenever I hit my ceiling for time spent or budget, or I just get irritated, there are probably some things that if I'd stuck with longer, I might have found success with. So like I mentioned, Google Ads, I know that that clearly can work. There's a reason Google makes however many hundreds of $1 billion a year or something, because their ad platform can work for any type of business, big or small. So it's not that it's not possible. I just probably gave up on it way too earlier. It wasn't right for us at that time. But I think it's okay to just try something and learn a little bit about it and then move on. Even if you're not seeing results, you still learn something from it along the way.
Yep.
And that's my main goal during our first few years of our firm, especially, is just learn as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really helpful. Quick question on the referral thing. Do you get referral money for the referrals that you send out?
Nope. We don't collect or pay any referral fees.
Great. Thank you.
There's one small exception to that. There's a website called Wealth Ramp run by Pam Kruger. It's one of these paid sites where they connect you with referrals and then you pay them a percentage of revenue. I've experimented with that. We've got, I think, just one client that we've gotten from them that we're still paying out on. So I've experimented with that just a little bit. I would never accept a payment for referring a client elsewhere, not just for financial planning, but for tax prep or a real estate agent or anything like that. I would never do.
Yep. No, thank you. That's really helpful. Do you think that as people are getting started, so we had a question about if launching a business partway with a 2-year runway, should you pay for lead generation services? Like, is it worth it to spend some money on this to try to jumpstart, or should you do it more organically and grow slower? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's going to depend a lot on the level of experience that somebody's coming into this with and how many clients they may have coming with them from whatever they were doing before, and whether they've exhausted the easier, cheaper options like their personal network first.
Mm-hmm.
And also the type of client that you're working with. So I know that's a frustrating answer to hear, but I think it really depends.
Okay. No, that's fair. What do we think about reviews? So does California allow reviews on Yelp? Do you ask for reviews? How do you approach that? Has it made an impact on your business? What do you think?
Yeah, so we have a pretty small number of reviews. I think it's only like 8 or 9 reviews that we have on Yelp and similar number on Google. I have asked clients for them in the past. I haven't been selective about it. I just asked everybody uniformly, since that seems to be the guidance you hear from a lot of compliance consultants. I was audited a few years ago by the state and they didn't care at all, didn't even ask me about it. So it hasn't really been an issue for us. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would caution everyone to talk to your compliance consultant, make sure that you can do this in your state, and then go from there. But it sounds like you've gotten some good ones. Does it help with your ranking on Yelp? I guess what's kind of the important piece with that? Obviously,
Definitely.
everyone reads reviews, but what is the most important factor to that?
Yeah, we've had a lot of people mention that they read reviews on Yelp or Google and liked them, and that's why they scheduled with us. That's happened a lot. So I think that I don't know for sure. It seems very likely to me that if you have a large number of positive reviews, you would show up higher in the organic rankings for Google search or Yelp search. That's probably true. I don't know for sure. Either way, it's definitely true that when somebody is looking at your profile, that they're going to want to see people saying good things about you. And I don't think you need a very large number of reviews in order to accomplish that. We got to keep in mind, like, we're never going to have a high volume. So like if we were running a restaurant where you've got 100 people coming a day, it's pretty easy to get up to a large number of reviews over time. For us, working with a smaller number of people, that's very difficult. So I would say, don't worry if you don't have dozens or hundreds of reviews. You don't need it to be effective.
Yep. Sam, what do you think?
Well, yeah, you read my mind, Amy. Google has they've gone to great lengths to make sure your reviews are so visible. So if you do get reviews, it can be a great thing. It can help you break through the noise of that Google search engine results page by having 5 stars right there, and then a brick of text from an actual person. Like, social proof is just such a strong lever that people can use to gain new business. And I think as a human, we all tend to see what everybody else approves of before we do something. So reviews, I can't stress enough how important they are to your business. But to echo what Amy said, talk to your compliance professional, because it varies on what you can ask for. So
Yes. Okay, Stephen, I'm curious, how much money do you spend and how much time do you spend on lead generation?
So money right now, our budget for marketing is probably about 14% of our expected revenue for the year is going towards marketing for this year. There were several years where it was like 30, 50, 60%, just because revenue was super low. But now it's probably about there. And over the next few years, I think it's probably going to continue to drop a little bit, but as long as we're continuing to grow more clients and add more team members, I think I would never drop below maybe 10% or so, as long as I'm pretty confident that every dollar we're spending is going towards a reasonable purpose that we can expect results from. As far as time, right now, my main focus is I'm just starting to move all the clients that I'm personally working with over to other members of the team. And I'm going to be focusing on marketing and everything else associated with running the firms besides clients. And I won't have any clients at all anymore. So it's about to change. But right now I'm spending maybe, I don't know, 2 hours a week on something that could be considered a marketing activity. And that's about to expand to probably 20, 30 once I'm finished transitioning clients.
Okay. And what do you think about when you first started? How much time were you spending on marketing?
It's similar to the client acquisition cost with dollars. It's hard to know which things I should count as marketing or not. So like if I reach out to a local firm owner and I'm trying to just listen to them and learn as much as I can, some of what we're talking about has nothing to do with marketing. Like I'm asking about, hey, how do you categorize this thing in your CRM? What's your process look like for this, whatever. But that person may end up sending me a referral later when they come across somebody. So it's hard to quantify. I would think maybe like around a quarter, half of my time, something like that, was something at least tangentially related to marketing in the early days.
Yep. Do you set a day a week aside to do that? I guess, how do you kind of structure your time for that?
I do now, but that's fairly recent. Like over the last year or so, I've gotten a lot better at managing my time and myself, my efforts. I know XYPN runs on EOS. We started a little while ago. This is our 7th quarter on EOS, and that's been really helpful on that front, is being more intentional about what I'm doing and why, and making like tangible progress towards it. So now I am very specific about it. It's not always the same day of the week or the same time, but I do have a concrete plan in place where I time block and say, okay, this time on this day, I'm working on this. And this day I'm working on this. So that way I know I put in the time that I need to accomplish the things that I decided ahead of time were important to be doing right now, marketing or otherwise.
Perfect. I want to end on a question for each of you of what's the one thing, if they can't do anything else in the world, what's the one thing that people should be doing? Sam, do you want to start?
Yes. Get a website and make sure it's just mobile friendly and that it just shows who you are as a person, and you can start anything from that point.
Perfect. Stephen, what do you think?
I would say the single most important thing is know who you're talking to and tailor your messaging to them.
Perfect. I love that. I think this has been really helpful. I hope that everyone was able to take something valuable away from this. We will have a recording out, which is going to be on our events page on xyplanningnetwork.com. We'll drop a link to that for you to find this later. I do think you'll also get a recording in an email. So there'll be lots of opportunities to follow up on this. We also are going to put a link in the chat to talk to one of our network navigators. If you do have more questions about XYPN membership and want to learn more, we are here to help with that. We do have lots of resources in membership for marketing. So would love to be a part of your journey to firm ownership. All right. Well, thank you both so much for joining today. I think that this was amazing.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good luck, everybody.
Perfect. Thank you so much.